Feast of the Lord, Easter, Christmas, Lent, Harvest Festival, feast, hey Terry!
Shalom. Shabbat, or the Sabbath, Pesach, Hag Matzah, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. What are these? If you have ever even heard of them, you probably say they are the Jewish holy days or the Jewish holidays, right? Well, that is true. They are the Jewish holy days. But that is only the case because before they were the Jewish holy days, they were first God's holy days. And God gave His holy days to Israel at Mount Sinai, as written down for us in the book of Vayikra, or in the English, the book of Leviticus. Leviticus 23:1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say to them, concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. Now, in your particular Bible translation, as it is here in the King James Version, it might read that these are God's feasts or festival days. And indeed they are. But the Hebrew word here for feast or festival is moed, and indeed can and does mean feast or festival. Moed, an appointed time, a place, an appointment, appointed feast, appointed festival, appointed meeting place, appointed place. You can sort of get the idea. It's an appointment of time. There are feasts, there are meeting places, there are seasons and appointed times to meet with God. And yad is the root word that it comes from, which again means appointed or assembled, designated gatherings, made an appointment and meeting together, to be summoned. So we can see from Strong's definition of moed in Strong's 4150 and its root yad in Strong 3259, the word moed would more appropriately and should probably better be translated as God's appointed times. For these very specific times are the times God has set in place for us to meet with Him. An appointment, if you will, at these, His specific appointed times. God's appointments with us. And we also get from these Hebrew definitions that these are times to gather together, to meet with Him. And these moed or yad are His specific instructions to His people. And in these specific instructions of these meetings, we, His people, are to proclaim these appointed times in their specific holy convocations. Now, convocations in the Hebrew is mikra, Strong's 4744. And it means a convocation, a reading, an assembly, a convocation, a summoning. So mikra is an assembling together, a summoning together. In other words, a congregation or a meeting together to proclaim His holy days with a holy gathering together of His people, or simply in a worship service. And all of these festivals are the worship of God by God's people. Israel, as God Himself has prescribed as to how to worship Him. Now, has God ever changed this? No. Nowhere in the Bible, either in the Tanakh, that is the Old Testament, or the Brit Chadashah, the New Covenant, has God ever changed His worship of Him. As a matter of fact, He tells us this worship will continue even into and through His millennial reign in Zechariah 14:16, where it is clearly talking about a time of the age to come. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go even up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feasts of tabernacle. And it is clear here that the Feast of Tabernacles, or the Feast of Booths, or in the Hebrew, the Feast of Sukkot, and one can construe that all of God's feasts will still be celebrated in the Messiah's millennial kingdom under His millennial reign as King. And he concludes the verse with proclaiming that even though He gave His festivals, His feasts, His appointed times to Israel, nonetheless He has not released nor abandoned nor abrogated any of His appointed times ever. And certainly not because He gave them to Israel. to the Jews. Thus, a conclusion has to be, that none of his appointed times have ever gone away. They are still in effect. Now, if our teaching hasn't ever pointed this out before, then how many more of God's ways have been misunderstood or just plain missed? Shalom.
Dance for joy, dance for joy, dance for joy, lie, 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 lie. Dance for joy, dance for joy, dance for joy, lie, 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 lie. Dance for joy, dance for joy, dance for joy, lie, 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 lie.